Welcome to the Multi-Orgasmic Mama podcast, where sexual taboos around sex and motherhood are broken. I'm Tilly Storm, holistic sex and intimacy coach, jade egg, and tantric sex teacher. I work with high-achieving moms to ignite their sexual desire and break through their blocks to pleasure and the life they desire so they can experience epic sex and orgasmic motherhood. Grab more free resources at www.tillystorm.com. This episode is brought to you for free by the Essentially Embodied Woman Collective, my signature women's group coaching program for high-achieving moms to get their desire back after having kids and up-level their pleasure, both in the bedroom and life. If you're enjoying this content, be sure to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcasting app, and please rate and review the podcast and share it with a friend who could use this amazing content. Spread the love, hot mama. Welcome back, mamas. Happy moving to me. I've been in the middle of this huge move that feels like it's taken months to get here, but we are finally here in a new home, woohoo, in Hollywood, Florida. Yes, I'm super excited to be here, to have our own things here, to be setting up a house and shop and, having my own office for the first time in my life. Oh my God, it's so amazing. Today, I wanted to talk to you about 2 tools to reclaim your shadow self and break free from the matrix. There's so much about shadow work, underworld journeying, all of these dark and scary things that people are generally afraid of, these parts and pieces of themselves that they aren't even aware of, that are really controlling us, that are keeping us stuck in patterns that we don't want to be stuck in. And it seems that sometimes no matter how hard we try, nothing really seems to change, or how much we show up for ourselves, how many transformational workshops or programs or whatever that we go through, something is just sticking and it doesn't seem to ever really shift. Part of this is shadow work and underworld journeying. I always say that the key to transformation and change that is lasting is choosing a new identity. And sometimes choosing a new identity means that we learn the identity that we are operating from unconsciously in order to feel empowered to choose something different. And this is why shadow work is absolutely essential if you don't want to be ruled by the level of mind that you are currently operating in. That's creating the relationship, the sex life, the business, or the career that you're not completely satisfied in. So what is shadow work and a shadow self in the first place? Well, your shadow self is an essential part of you that you have shut down or disconnected from at some point. Shadow pieces are like fragmented parts of you that you have banished or abandoned in order to survive and to get the love, safety, and belonging that you needed at that time. However, these pieces are very controlling when we are not aware of them, and bringing awareness to them means that we must shed some light on the shadow pieces to bring them out of the shadow and back into the light. So these shadow pieces, when we banish or abandon them, it makes them hidden. It makes them inaccessible to you, but they affect every area of your life, from your relationship with your kids, to your romantic partners, to your family, your mom and dad, to your finances. And it affects you by creating drama, chaos, judgment, criticism, and shadow pieces also act as triggers. When you get triggered, a lot of times this is the shadow piece being triggered, and you're not aware of how to work with this or to shift it and change this and to choose an identity that's actually empowered to create the liberated life that you want for yourself. So working with reclaiming your shadow parts is beneficial both in your personal and your professional life, to escape the matrix that's holding you back from living this liberated and free life and to creating this legacy that you want to leave for your kids. You can't be fully liberated and free unless you are aware of the parts and pieces of you holding you back from what you really want to create. And because of this, there are 2 amazing tools that I use to work with reclaiming shadow selves, to break free from the hold these parts and pieces have on you. I've actually been working with one myself around finances that I'm going to share with you shortly. So the first shadow work tool that we can use is called pendulation. And let me tell you, these two tools are very similar, but slightly different, okay? Pendulation is a process that's been developed by Dr. Peter Levine. He wrote the book, The Body Keeps the Score, and a couple of other amazing books on trauma healing. So we do not actually have much scientific evidence or research around healing trauma. As a matter of fact, there isn't much out there. There have been some studies for sure, but it's a fairly new world out there. We are blessed to live in a time in society where we actually have access to the deep healing and the transformational understanding and knowledge to change parts and pieces of us that aren't helping us. We have access nowadays to shift and change more of our childhood mess and drama than we ever have in human history. So we are very, very blessed to live in this time where we can change these things. We can break generational patterns because we have the scientific understanding, and of course, the deep shamanic, tantric, Taoist practices that always knew about shadow work and how to heal these things, right? But now we kind of have the science is usually always lagging on these things, but now we have the scientific understanding to bring this all into the light and to have this opportunity to shift and change patterns that normally would have held previous generations back from ever growing, evolving, expanding, and transforming into more of the 5D consciousness that we are stepping into right now. So this pendulation process was developed by Peter Levine, who first, did the big studies on PTSD. And even if you've never experienced PTSD, it doesn't matter. This is the same process for everyone. Everyone has shadow aspects. Doesn't matter if you've experienced trauma or not. You've got parts and pieces that you have banished and created shadows around that you need to reclaim in order to step into this liberated life and live the legacy of freedom you want. So pendulation, it means that you can jump from one experience to another, which eventually integrates experiences and makes them tolerable. One thing about shadow work is that we don't go there. We often fear going there because it means that we have to feel or face something that might feel like a demon, that might feel like a dark thing, it's like the monster under the bed, right? Like no one wants to go into that and to face that. Yet pendulation gives us access to create more space to be able to tolerate witnessing that, to be able to sit with it. One of the great things about doing shadow work is that once you've gone there and done that, there is literally nothing that you cannot hold space for within your own consciousness. And it also means that there's nothing that you can't hold space for in terms of other people's shadows. Doing shadow work makes you an amazing space holder. Let's just leave it at that. It makes you an amazing parent because it doesn't matter what kind of emotions your kids might be experiencing or going through. It doesn't matter how dark anything might be for them, because you have already gone there. You can hold them in that. You can be there with them in that. You can coach them and support them through that. So doing shadow work, going and doing pendulation to bounce back and forth between really unpleasant experiences and then pleasant experiences increases your capacity to be with the shit. And if there's anything that we need capacity for, it's that, because this never stops. Like, life doesn't stop. The hard things, the obstacles, all of these difficult, negative, so-called uncomfortable emotions that you want to experience, they don't ever go away. Okay? I think that's one of the misnomers of a lot of the love and light people and yoga people out there. It drives me freaking crazy when I hear these statements, because I'm like, babe, your power is in the shadow. Like, if you're all love and light, but you never go into the shadow, you are spiritually bypassing so hard and you don't even know it because the power is down there, deep dark in the underworld. Okay. And until you reclaim these parts and pieces of yourself, then you only have so much light that can shine, because you're only showing up as a fragmented part of you. Part of you is still down there in the underworld. So let's bring it back into the light, and then you can shine even brighter. So pendulation is basically swinging back and forth between unpleasant to pleasant experiences or memories. This, what it does scientifically, is rewires your brain to feel and connect with two different experiences and to hold them in your capacity to be able to be with both of these. So for example, during an experience where you would normally feel shame, or you would feel fear or scarcity, you could pendulate to a feeling of worthiness or abundance or trust. And this expands your bandwidth, your capacity, and eventually builds the power to choose what you want to feel. A lot of what we don't want to feel, we're experiencing because we don't feel that we have choice over our emotions when we really do. And I know when you're in it and you're deeply, deeply triggered, it seems impossible to be able to choose your emotional state, to choose your experience. I know I've been there. I still struggle with this from time to time. Okay. There's definitely things that I'm still triggered by, that I still have to deal with all the time. But when you go in and you practice pendulation, swinging back and forth, like, can I be with this uncomfortable sensation, and just create some space between it, knowing that you aren't the emotion or the sensation or the trigger, but it's just something you are experiencing now, but it is not your identity. It is not you. You are never your emotions or your thoughts or your sensations. These are just things that you experience, right? So it's bringing a little bit of space into the uncomfortable sensations and feelings, that, oh, okay, I can pull away a little bit from them, and I can shift my focus if I slowly move into the opposite of that. If you think of like a pendulum on a grandfather clock swinging back and forth, this is what it's kind of like, right? So you're in the negative emotion or experience, but you can move into the positive emotion or experience. But what is the bandwidth that you can allow yourself to go between these two polar opposite experiences? Most of us live in a very, very tiny little window. We live in a very small bandwidth, okay? Most people don't experience really high highs, and they don't experience really low lows either. And I don't know about you, but if you're here, you're probably here because you want it all. You want to experience the ecstasy and the bliss. Well, let me tell you, you're not experiencing ecstasy and bliss if you don't experience and don't allow yourself to experience the things that you don't want to experience either, okay? Because what builds the capacity to experience the ecstasy and bliss is the same capacity to experience the shit. All right, I have some of my gals in our group program, Essentially Embodied Woman. We talk about this quite often, is that, you know, like the ecstasy and bliss and the awesome feelings that we want to experience, they come with a price tag. They come with the price tag of, when you are increasing your capacity to experience that, you're also increasing your capacity to experience and be with the things you would necessarily not want to be experiencing. But at least you're alive, right? The benefit is feeling fully alive, being able to witness other people and these emotions and sensations of what it means to be fully alive right now on this planet in this human body. So this pendulation can also work as building bridges from uncomfortable feelings to more supportive feelings. So if you can imagine a bridge that, you know, somehow the bridge may have gotten torn down because you decided that, I have no access to the good feelings anymore. You know, if you get stuck in these depressive patterns, the anxiety, all of this stuff, it feels impossible to move over and to the other side, right? So you're kind of stuck in the shadow loop. And building bridges to move yourself slowly into the feeling of what you want to experience, it can happen when you draw from another blueprint. So for example, if your sex life sucks, but your finances are great, How can you bridge the experience of your sex life sucking to the awesomeness of your finances, right? So maybe you can draw from the amazing experiences and feelings of what it means to be so supported in your money and your finances. What does that feel like? If you can experience it in one area of your life, you can experience it in another area of your life. So can you feel so supported and loved and held and abundant in your sexuality as well? And you can literally build bridges between different aspects of your life like that. So pendulation is one of these tools that we're going to be working with in the Matrix Free Mama program, like a lot. We're going to be doing a lot of shadow work, reclaiming shadow selves. So the second tool is called disassociation and reassociation. This is best described in examples, okay? So, for example, if we culturally associate having money with greed, with shame, or with being a bad person, don't you think it's going to be a little difficult to experience having money, more than enough money, and be a good person, to feel that you can celebrate your successes in this, to feel like, you can have it all, right? And be a good person still, be connected to your spirituality, to source, and to be holy and worthy, right? So this is what came up for me. I was doing my own shadow work the other day, and what came up I was completely unconscious of. I had no idea. So what happened a couple weeks ago? The crypto market crashed like big time, and I lost a lot of money, right? And a lot of people I know did as well, and the stock market as well. It went kaplook and it was bad. Okay, well, this brought up some very interesting things for me around like, okay, why have I've worked so hard to build all these assets. Why are they now just like worth nearly nothing, right? So going into this, I discovered that I still, after all these years of working on this, I still had an association that in order to have more than enough and to be wealthy and have assets, that somehow I could not still be spiritual and have access to divinity, that somehow it made me unworthy. And this blew my mind because I literally had no idea that there was even any part of me that still held that idea or that belief. But when I went in and I asked and I looked around to see what shadows might still be there, I found it. I found it. It was still there. And it was the part that was just like waiting for me to take it back in and be like, oh, honey, oh my goodness, like, wow. Are we still in belief that to have more than enough, to have assets that are always there for us and to support us and to support our family, to leave this legacy of money behind for them, right? That we still believe that if we have this, somehow I am disconnected from source, that I'm disconnected from my spiritual power. This is crazy. And it made me laugh at the fact that there was still a part of me that still believed that. But, bringing compassion and love and acceptance to this part of me, to welcome that part of me back in and say, oh my goodness, right? Reassociation, disassociation means that the association isn't necessarily the correct way of feeling around these experiences, but it's something that society, religion, or your parents have taught you to feel this way. So for example, in my thing, it was that to have more than enough money meant that I couldn't be spiritual. And that is definitely something that the religion that I grew up in taught me, is that, it's greedy to have money. At least that's the story that I picked up on. So that's why it's valuable to learn, to see where you have associated these things in your mind. And if that association is a cultural or some sort of religious creation. So there's actually a 3-step process to do this reassociation and disassociation. The first is just to notice the association and to breathe. So I noticed how having money to me, or at least that shadow aspect, equaled greed, that it meant that I must be greedy, and because I was greedy, I couldn't be holy or divine, or I couldn't have access to divinity, right? So I'd ask myself, well, can I experience having money without feeling greed? Yes, at least in some instance, in all of the infinite possibilities in the universe, I believe that there is some instance where I could experience having money without feeling greedy. Okay, yes. You can also ask yourself, can I experience feeling greedy without having money? Yes. This one blew my mind, right? Like, of course, I can experience being greedy, even if I didn't have a lot of money. So this helped me to disassociate the experience of having money with feeling greedy. So I was able to split the experience from the associated feeling of greed. Okay, so that's the second step. So just number 1, notice the association and breathe. Number 2, split the experience. And then number 3, reassociate. Okay, so for example, me having money, instead of it making me feel greedy or guilty because I didn't have access to divinity, what it would mean instead is that I have an empowerment and the ability to give back. That if I have money, then it means that I have choice, that I can give it to my children, that I can put it in their name when I die and live, give them this access to these funds, right? That I can give back to my children instead of feeling greedy, because it wasn't ever really for me in the first place, right? It was for my children. So doing this, it takes the edge off the intensity of the feeling, and it makes the experiences more accessible from a place of choice. And it is so empowering to experience this choice and to reassociate a new feeling with something that you previously associated with a negative feeling of greed, for example. So this takes time for the brain to create and to solidify this new thinking and feeling pattern. So you're going to want to repeat this process until it feels like the new association has been fully wired. It takes time and practice, but it is possible. And this is definitely something that we are going to be going through in Matrix Free Mamas as well. So these 2 very powerful practices and coaching tools we're going to be working through in the program. I wanted to share a little bit more about it. Because I've been in the middle of moving the past couple weeks, I didn't release an episode last week because we were literally sleeping on air mattresses until we could go to New Orleans to unpack our storage unit and move it all the way to Florida. So it was a mess. I just couldn't. So because of that, I wanted to extend the registration date for the program through February 25th. So you have until February 5th or 25th, 2022 to apply for Matrix Free Mamas. We are being called to create a new blueprint, my loves, for meaningful work, for relationship, for child rearing and education. All the systems that we grew up in and have been raising our kids in are crashing to the ground. From how we educate them, how we make money, and how we make love, it is all shifting, and we're being called to let go of the old way of doing things and to create something new. So how do we step out of these systems that don't support and step into new systems, create new systems that will support us? Well, just understand first that nothing is ever going back to normal, okay, to pre-March 2020. The sooner we can accept that, the less suffering we're going to experience, all right? But so many of us are still in suffering because we think that we're still holding on to this idea that we can go back to the way it used to be. And that's not happening. It's never going to happen. So just let go of it and understand that part of what is happening is that we have to create new ways in order to thrive in this new world. So if you didn't catch the last 2 episodes of the podcast, I encourage you to do so, where I discuss what stepping into this new way of being has looked like for my own family, the wild freaking journey that we have been on for over a year now. It's been crazy, but it's been absolutely necessary. So if you're being called to deepen, to let go of the old and create the new for yourself and for your children, this new offering is for a select few individuals, for high achieving career and business moms, ready to step into new earth motherhood this year in 2022. This is a bespoke offering for those of you being called. You will know if it is for you, and you will know if it is not. If you are ready to burn to the ground that old way of making money, the old way of educating your kids, the old way of people pleasing, trying to fit into your family dynamic, seeking external validation for how you're raising your kids and how you do your relationship, then I encourage you to book a call with me and discuss if this Matrix Free Mama 10-month coaching container is for you. So you can apply at bit.ly/Matrix Free Mama. It's bit.ly/Matrix Free Mama, all lowercase letters. I will also include the link in the show notes and the blog post and the email for that call. So this program will give you all that you need to take you out of whatever unfulfilling job you're in and creating the business that you desire, to giving you the support and the confidence to educate your children in the way that you know is best for them, and to give you the tools and practices to undo decades of social conditioning and break social contracts that keep you out of a life of pleasure and disconnected from your truth. Yes, we're going to be talking about sex a lot. And we will be talking about educating your children, starting your purpose-based business, up-leveling your relationship with your partner, because sexual energy is the root and it is the foundation upon which all areas of your life are being supported by. So if your relationship with this area isn't great, chances are other areas of your life aren't fulfilling or great, and they are out of alignment with your truth and your pleasure as well. Of course, the ticket to escaping the matrix is going to be buried in the most unsuspecting place imaginable, as is all modes of liberation. This is in our sexuality, our root, and our sacral work. So this program is a root and sacral healing container. So I have created this program to help support you in breaking free and stepping into new earth motherhood. This is really all about creating the life of legacy of freedom that you want for your children. And it's going to require you to go into the root and sacral, to tune in, to listen for the call. Because I promise you, if you listen deep enough, that call is there. We are all being called into this. So you will leave the program a new version of you. You will leave liberated, more powerful, more grounded, more unstoppable to taking action in the direction of your desires than you could possibly imagine. So if you're ready to burn the bridges behind and take aligned action toward creating the life and the legacy you want, then I encourage you to apply at bit.ly/Matrix Free Mama by February 25th. Book the call, fill out the questions. Please give me some detailed responses and not one-word answers. I really don't like when y'all give me one-word answers. It doesn't tell me a lot about who you are as a person, and shows me that you're not really that interested. You're just filling things out to get it filled out. So please give yourself 10-15 minutes to fill out the questions. And let's see if this is everything that you ever wanted and more. If you've heard the call, then it is your responsibility to listen and follow, because ain't nobody going to do it for you. So don't ignore it. We need you, hot mama. Head to bit.ly/Matrix Free Mama and apply by February 25th. Thank you so much, my loves, and we'll see you next week. Enjoying this content? Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review the Multi-Orgasmic Mama podcast today. And don't forget to spread the love by sharing this with a friend